I'd like to call this meeting into order. This is our preliminary assessment resolution for the draft project. The citizens have their chance to speak, and we also have some emails that will be coming in. As we start this meeting, just want to tell you thank you all for coming out and expressing your opinions today. I ask that everybody be respectful to each other as we sit here and listen to the different comments, and just everybody have an open mind, and let's try to work together to make Sunset Beach better. Everybody will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming out to share your thoughts with us today. In an effort to hear the voices of the many of our citizens as possible, we will be limiting the comments to 1.5 minutes per person. Council will do their best to address questions specifically pertaining to this resolution. If possible, broad dredging related questions will be addressed. Questions deemed unreasonable or that can be construed as badgering, baiting, or misleading will be addressed at the discretion of the council. Affected property owners, residents, and non-residents were allowed to submit comments via email. Emails are limited to 100 words with only one email per property. Each email sender has been verified as an affected property owner. The emails will be read into the record at the end of the hearing. And also, at any questions that are not answered, that are deemed to be answered, will be addressed at the next council meeting, which is next Tuesday morning. Not this one, but the next. I received a note from Councilwoman Harris at the beginning of this meeting. It says, I, Sunset Beach Councilwoman Jan Harris, will not participate in the public hearing for a special assessments for the proposed dredging project for the following reasons. NC Statute 162238 does not give the town authority to assess by plat rather than linear foot. NC Statute 162238 does not give the town authority to assess by linear number of parcels served. Only NC 162238 applies to dredging, but not based on the number of lots served. Justifying the town planned special assessment on the above could subject the town to a lawsuit. At this time, the council has no ideas for the potential cost of this project, but because we have not heard from the state of North Carolina or the Army Corps engineers as to what and even if they will approve or our permit as submitted. On council, given that we have the legal option to rescind, postpone the assessment resolution that requires this meeting, this public hearing places an unfair burden and cost upon the citizens and taxpayers of Sunset Beach. Furthermore, to expose our town staff and participants to a chance of COVID-19 spiking at this time, it is irresponsible and regardless of the precautions. Finally, the most important comment, word, and time limits, rules for spoken or written, combined with a very serious threat of a symptomatic no temperature, COVID super spreaders in attention, disfranchises not only the affected property owners who seek information on their concerns, but also other interest taxpayers who want to attend but were afraid. Jan Harris. Yes, sir. I will. All right, moving on. Do I have a motion to open our public hearing? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. The town council will hear comments on the following outlined in the preliminary assessment resolution that is intended to dredge in the areas known as South Jinks Creek near the mouth of the feeder canal eastward toward Palm Cove, the Bay Area along Canal Drive, Cobia Street, and abutting at the ends of 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th, the feeder channel along North Shore Drive Extension and Riverside Drive, the feeder canal along 6th Street, Marlin Street, Sailfish Street, Dolphin Street, and Cobia Street, Mary's Creek, and Turtle Creeks, by virtue of Chapter 160, Article 10, Special Assessments of the General Statutes of North Carolina, and the procedure therein established. That is 100% of the total cost of the project remaining after the awarded grants are received, be hereby assessed upon the benefited property owners. That the proposed basis for making these special assessments is by the number of parcels served. That no assessment shall be held in abeyance. That assessment shall be paid as followed. Pay the assessment in full without interest if paid within 30 days after the publication of the assessment roll confirmation, or up to 3 annual installment payments with interest not to exceed 8% per annual payable on the date when property taxes are due and payable. We will start with our public end of this, the public speaking. I have 2 lists. I'm just going to go by the way they're wrote down, and we'll call everybody out and give everybody equal opportunity. Again, I just ask that everybody respect each speaker so they can get their comments out. Jeff Vargo, take the mic, sir. Please state your name and your address so we'll know if you're affected property owner, please.
Hi, Jeff Vogel. I live at 427 Cobia Street on the island. And I was just wondering if is this going to be a go or no go, depending on the response of the people's comments? If it's 50, 60, 70% nay or for it, are we going to go by that to get this done? This has been going on for years. And I was also wondering, with the interest rate on that, with the repayments, is it going to be a set interest rate? And is there any way that we can get that a little bit lower than 8%, since this has been going on for years and the cost keeps rising? And also I was wondering if we could have like an assessment on the homeowners on the entire island, because I feel that if we don't do this, the value of the homes on the entire island are going to suffer. Not just the people that have waterfront property, everybody on the island, because a lot of people aren't coming here now for vacations because of the water depth. And because like OIB does this on all their waterfront homes, they assess the house like $300 a year, and they have a dredging schedule. And last time they dredged, it wasn't as bad as they thought, and everybody got a refund.
Any council like to address this question? These questions? If not, I ask that these will be wrote down and they will be addressed at the next meeting.
Sure.
Anybody have anything?
Well, I think that the assessment, your first question, what percent will be required to say yay or nay, as you said, and I think the way it's been done in the past for these types of assessments is that you need a 51% majority of people to agree with it. So I would assume that would be the same way that this would go. As far as lowering the interest rate, I think that's something that we could discuss. The way it's reading right now, it says not to exceed 8%, so there is room for us to make adjustments there. I think we'll have to wait and see what the total cost is going to be. Your last point about the Ocean Isle beach method of doing things, I think we would end up doing the same type of thing where you would be assessed on a regular basis to maintain a tax that will be available to be used when we have to maintenance dredge. So I think that would be the same way that we would do it here.
So you're saying that if the majority of the responses of the property owners on the water, or anybody that lives in Sunset?
I think we need to discuss that. As far as I'm concerned, it would be something that would affect the property owners, only the ones that have to pay. I think that's the one that has to agree. As far as the rest of the people, I don't think that would have any bearing on whether we would say yes or no in terms of the assessment.
I mean, as far as like voting to get the dredging done, is it gonna be 51% of the waterfront homes?
Yeah, the people
Okay.
affected, yes.
Because there's a lot of people that,
That's
don't-
my position. I think that the council has,
there's a lot of people that don't have a dog in this fight, and they're saying no to this dredging, and they're not on the water and not even on the island. So it's,
I agree with you.
thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Tim, I think it's Suits. Rick, thank you.
Yeah, I'm Tim Suits, kind of new to the fight. I own Bill's Seafood at 310 Sunset Beach, Sunset Boulevard North. And just to piggyback, I guess, on what Mr. Virgo said, again, I'm so new, I don't know what the costs are. I mean, we just bought Bill's Seafood last year in July in Oddwaters, so this is all kind of new to me. Joe told me that it was probably coming up. I don't know what the costs are. I don't know who decided what the benefit was to the individual property owners, at least for us. I get it if you're over on the island and you need to be able to drive your boat up or what have you. Obviously, there's some intuitive benefit for us as a property owner, a business owner. I guess people can drive their boats up there at low tide instead of just high. But for me, I just don't know what the cost is. So I guess I'm not articulating a very good question at this point in time, but it's hard for me to ask a good one without knowing exactly how this is going to impact me. I definitely feel that, as the prior speaker said, that having people who aren't affected, vote one way or the other is not a good thing. I also would like to know who decided what the benefit is, and I would like to know if the board feels and if the town feels that there's a benefit to everybody. So the resolution, the actual statute that's quoted, talks about the benefit, benefited property, and that's a relative term. We're all getting a different amount of benefit out of this thing, one way or the other. For me, I've got some rickety old docks. We don't have people coming up. I'm sure it'll look nice when when it's all done and a few boats can pull in there, but it's not like we have a lot of slips. So for me, I just want to know who decided what the benefit is. Is there benefit to everybody? And if so, shouldn't there be some assessment to everybody as well? And I guess that piggybacks on what Vargo, I want to mispronounce your name, but what the previous speaker said. And the last thing, like I said, is the thing I started with. What's it going to cost me is what I'm getting to at the end of the day. So.
What was your address, please?
310 Sunset Boulevard North.
Okay.
Here in Sunset Beach, right across the street, Bill's Seafood.
I'll let you go over the assumed time
Sorry
they are,
about
but I'm trying to be respectful to everybody. I was gonna cut in on you, I didn't. I apologize to the crowd, but I want you to at least try to get out what you're trying to say. But in the next few ones, if it gets to that, I'll just tell you your time's slowing, so you'll be able to get your comments.
Raise the light, and I probably got it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Put your thing back together. Thank you, sir. Does any member of council have any comments on?
I'd like to make one.
Go ahead, sir.
Just to clarify that this public hearing is on the specific resolution for preliminary resolution of the assessment, and it applies to those residents that live on the waterfront. And in this resolution, it says 100% of the total cost of said project remaining after the grant funds are used will be paid for by the benefit property owners. And within this resolution, the benefit property owners are those who live on the waterfront, not the rest of the town. So with your address on Seaside, you are not one of the people that's being assessed for this dredging. So, yeah, and the second is just to put it out there, at this stage in the process, we do not have the cost. We still have to get the permits for the areas that will be dredged, which will tell us how deep we can dredge, which areas can be dredged, and after those things are taken care of, determined, we really won't know the cost of this project until we put it out for proposals, put it out for bids to contractors, and find out what they're gonna come back and charge us. And at that point in time, we'll be making the decisions whether to go forward with the project or, and if we go forward, what the assessments would be on the waterfront property owners that are affected. Okay, so you're on Mary's Creek? Sorry, then yeah, you would be one of the property owners that are affected. I didn't recognize the address, sorry.
Any other councilman? Anything? Thank you, sir. Moving on to
Just a minute. Did I say anything incorrectly? Okay. If any of us say anything that is incorrect, please step in and correct us right away, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vance Ellis. It's 1400 Riverside Drive.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Some really good comments brought up here. With regard to the resolution itself, the authority you cite is not correct. That does not allow for navigation projects. That's a special session law, but the general schedule does not allow that. And taxing per lot is not a allowed basis for determining the special assessment in GS 106A 238. Yeah, I'm a little confused about what benefited property owner means.
Could you speak closer into the mic?
Slide
I'm
the
having
mic.
difficult
Where you
understanding
can
you with
speak.
it.
Yeah, because they can't hear you.
I'm confused what a benefited property owner is, because as this gentleman mentioned, if he has room for 3 slips and I have room for 1 slip, he's more benefited than I am. And in every single paperwork this council submitted for permits, approvals, etc., including all changes to their, always in every case, say the project seeks to enhance navigation access to residents and guests. Everybody. Everybody. That's everybody. Everybody can be a resident or a guest here. Anybody in the world. And then you say you want to restore navigation depths for sustainable boating opportunities to visitors, number 1. Residents, number 2. While also, that is, in addition to, later consideration is safeguarding the small rental businesses and property values. So here, your words, you say everybody's benefited, but we're going to target this select group of people and decide they're going to pay for the whole thing. So if you built a parking lot on the island, would you exclude island dwellers? Because we don't need a parking lot, we're already there. So government agencies, when they tax equally, always, everywhere, they can pretty much get away with it. But when you start segregating people and targeting and cherry picking who you're going to get to pay for stuff, I agree with the councilwoman who wrote the email, you're going to get a lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any council member like to address the spokesman? Nothing at this time? Be looked at. Your marks were down. We'll be able to have everything, and hopefully we can have some more answers for you. Okay. Next up is Mr. John, maybe Acton, correct? Acton. Sorry, Mr. Acton. 1801 Canal Drive.
Excuse me. My name is John Acton. My wife, Anita, and I have been a resident or had property on Sunset Beach since the early 80s. We built a house at the corner of 36 and Main. Our son was a teenager and we would take him down to the bay to windsurf. We ultimately bought a cottage at 1801 Canal Drive. I am in favor of the dredging. Why? Because of precedence. I think they've been dredging, the state of North Carolina has allowed dredging in other municipalities throughout the state. The Army Corps of Engineers has allowed near shore placement in other areas such as Lockwood Folly, Cape Fear, Carolina Beach. I think it needs to be dredged for boaters. We get boaters and fishermen throughout the whole area come into the bay to use it. Many times we'll see boaters stuck on a sandbar and have to wait for a new tide to come in to rescue them. So I am in favor of this. And I think in regards to precedent, I think we have something of a precedent here today. Jan Harris is not here for the reasons that she has given. Jan and her group have opposed, based on my time of living at the beach, they've opposed sewer and water and the bridge and now dredging. They have a precedent. So I am much in favor of it. I would like to get another boat for my grandchildren to utilize the waters. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody got any comments? Any council? No. All right, moving on. Mr. Leland Helms, 706 Riverside Drive.
Leland Helms, Riverside Drive. Been here about a year, just finished my house. I'm like the third house coming on Riverside. I have the farthest distance to get out to the waterway. And I already have a boat, but I have to schedule my time in and out so I won't get stuck. I have to agree with the speaker that just spoke. He's exactly right. And I think the people who benefit for this should pay for it. I will pay for it. You know, I don't think there's any reason not to do this. I've been going to Ocean Isle for 35 years before, and they've dredged, and that, you know, has increased the value over there. Dredging will increase my value, which that means I don't mind to pay for it, because eventually, if I sell, I'm gonna get my money back out of it. It's strictly a win-win situation for us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody have any comments? Moving on, Mr. Gary Green, 1615 Canal Drive.
Just want you to know I'm in favor of dredging and also in favor of the assessment. The only thing I want to try to do is see if the council will be willing to work with us. I think it's going to be at least a year or so before the bay is dredged. And one of the things I want to try to do is get equitable benefit for the people in the Bay Area. Typically the people on the feeder canals and on the access canal, most of the time the docks, face of the docks are going to be approximately 10 feet from the edge of the channel. However, in the bay, that's not the case. In the bay, you don't have any at 10 feet. You've only got 6 at 20 feet. 14 are all the way out to 40 feet, 22 at 60 feet, 8 of them are at 80 feet from the channel, and then you have a couple more basically at 80, basically greater than 80, you've got that, but it even goes out to 140 feet, especially some of the docks on North Shore Drive. So what I was wanting to do is just see if the council will be willing within the next year to work with us to where maybe we could look at a realignment of the channel. Is an 80-foot wide channel really needed and a 40-foot channel really needed? No, what I'd like to maybe see is let's try to meander a 20-foot channel along the south side of the bay and a 20-foot channel for a short distance on the north side of the bay. And let's look and see if we can't do something like that where the people in the bay will get equitable benefits as far as access to the channel. Because right now, I mean, it's good to have the channel, but if I don't have enough water to where I can access it from the dock, it's no benefit. The other thing I want to bring to your attention and I want to ask or inquire is during the bathymetric surveying, was there tide gauges deployed? The reason I ask that is very simply this. I've got the bathymetric charts. It's showing I have 1 foot of water at the face of my dock. No. At low tide, we have, I'm sorry, at low tide, we are basically, the water line is offshore of our dock, and yet at spring low tide, it's even further offshore. So that's the reason I'm asking if they deployed tide gauges so they could monitor the tide level when they're doing the survey so they make sure they've got their depths correct.
Thank you, sir. Any council like to address this?
I'll just say something real quick because I do have some familiarity with the way these bathymetric surveys are done with my occupation. And, you know, I haven't looked at the results specifically, but I know the type of work that these individuals do and things like that. Those perform the survey, and they typically include They do a tide. They don't use a tide gauge. What they'll do is they'll use just tide datums and things like that, so it's zeroed out to mean low water.
But you also have to always remember the tidal elevations are going to change as you go from seaside to all the way to the bridge. And so how close is that tidal reference to you? And you have to also know some of that stuff is based on V-datum, which V-datum is not exactly that accurate. I did the first bathymetric survey I did was back in '85 when we did that. So yeah.
Thanks, sir.
Anyone else? Thank you, sir. Moving on, John Corbett, 1313 Canal Drive.
Thank you. I'm John Corbett. My wife and I live at 1313 Canal Drive, and I am a member of the town council, as you can tell. We are affected/benefited waterfront property owners. My wife and I support the terms of the preliminary assessment resolution. If there is any change, we suggest that the interest rate be changed from 8% to 3%, and that's something that the council will talk about later. Further, we fully support the dredging project and urge the deciding agencies to finally approve this long-delayed and overdue project. Further delays simply increase the cost. And as a point of clarification, the town attorney since 2016 and multiple times since has advised that there is no conflict of interest for a council member who is a benefited owner in taking part in the dredging decision process. In other words, our lawyers said that it is okay for me and other council members who in the past and currently to take part in these decisions. Further, no current council member was on the council at the time when the lawyer first made that decision in 2016. So we were not involved in that process. We joined the council afterwards. Thank you very much.
Moving on to our next. I think it's maybe Shad Glenn.
It's Chow, but that was pretty close.
I couldn't see the D. I didn't know if it was male or female.
Trust me, I've been called much worse, Shannon. So.
I understand. Thanks, sir.
First of all, I'd like to second what John Corbett just said. Ditto for me. I've been coming to Sunset Beach for 50 years on the canal, 431 Dolphin Street. When I was a young man, 50 years ago, I could walk my canal at low tide, reach water easily, could swim at low tide. Obviously, I would challenge anyone to attempt that today. If you walked in it today, you wouldn't have any feet left, first of all, for all the shells and oysters, which are a real hazard. But I know we have laws to protect oysters, but I promise you, you can't get rid of them. They will come back, no matter where you dredge. Here's the point. I support dredging. I have always supported dredging. Sunset Beach was built on dredging. We've been dredging for 60 years. My frustration is what in the heck happened to our routine scheduled dredging? Well, we know that answer. It's very frustrating as a homeowner to have someone hijack the project under the name of conservation and environmental theory. They did the same thing on the bridge, saying that the fish and the oysters would all be killed. Go to the bridge and see if there are any fish around that bridge, okay? We cannot have a group delay what we know is necessary in this town. They certainly have the right to object. I'm all for that. But we've moved well beyond where we should be. We should do this immediately, and quit frustrating the homeowners that are out there. Along that line, I will more than pay my fair share. But there is a question into everyone benefits, so shouldn't everybody have at least a small stake in it? The homeowner should clearly pay the majority lion's share. But if everyone benefits, there should be some formula somewhere that allows everyone to contribute to that benefit. That shouldn't be the focus of today. The focus of today is let's move forward with dredging. Thank you.
Any questions for him? Thank you, Mr. Chad. Thank you, sir. Next up is Steve Williamson. Mr. Williamson. Okay, okay. All right, moving on. Arlene Williamson, just okay. Deborah Cornwell. There, Deborah Corn? Just attending, okay. Kathy Stegall. Art Ingram. Go ahead, Mr. Ingram.
Good morning. My name is Art Ingram. I have owned a home at 1705 Canal since 1980, 40 years. I've watched the bay fill up over those years and increasingly causing navigation issues for boats coming in and out of the bay area. So therefore, I'm in favor of dredging to improve navigation rights for boaters that are in the bay. My questions are fairly simple. How much is it going to cost? Who's going to pay for it? And over what kind of timeline are we talking about? I do believe as a waterfront property owner, I have a responsibility for helping to pay for the dredging cost. I do also agree with some of the comments this morning in terms of who all does benefit. I think in terms of Sunset Beach paying for a city park, which benefits everybody, I think it's public access area, if you will. The water rights are not owned by anybody. You just have a view of it or access to it. But the accessibility and navigation rights are coming into question. So the last comment, I think, in terms of everybody paying some kind of prorated amount as to who benefits should be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Any councilman got anything? Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Nern.
I would like to say that, it's right here, I think. I would like to say that those affected homeowners that live on the water, they have a direct benefit from the dredging. Yes, it does benefit the whole town, but there is not a direct benefit. That's just my opinion. Yes.
A debate or something. I think you were responding to my comments about direct waterfront property or not. So what exactly is the definition of direct versus indirect?
Councilman Nern.
Councilman Nern.
Sir, I'm not answering just you. A lot of these emails mention the same thing you did. But by direct benefit, I mean that when the dredging is done, you have full access to take your boat in and out of the canal area.
So if you don't own a boat, is that a consideration?
Charlie, can I try?
Go ahead.
The reality is direct benefit is it's being used in this project are those people who have waterfront property parcels on the areas that are being dredged. And that's how the direct benefit aspect is being interpreted.
Which indicates that there's some value improvement in land based on that, or I mean
well, the waterfront property owners are the ones who have the canals in their area, being dredged, and that's how this resolution, defines it.
Okay, I understand all of that, but I think it's still more questions than answers in terms of how much is it going to cost, who's going to pay for it, and over what timeline.
Yeah, and those will be in the future. I mean, we don't have those answers. Well, the resolution addresses who will pay for it, and that's 100% of the people benefited, property owners, that is, property owners on the waterfront, will pay the costs that are left over after the state grant is
I've
used.
read the
I mean,
grant.
and that's,
Understood.
yep, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram. Next up, Fritz Dove.
Good morning. I feel sorry for, is it Chad? Oh, here. It's Fitz. Fritz is the cat. Okay? All right. No problem. Most of what I needed to hear, I've already heard from the council and from other people. I would.
Your address, please.
Excuse me.
Where do you live?
Oh, excuse me. I live at 1711 Canal Drive, Sunset Beach. I want to say, and I wish you were here, that I appreciate the council people as they are, and go back to what people said about the bridge, about the other things been done at Sunset Beach. Jan Harris ought to be ashamed of herself for not being here to hear what is spoken here in the council. But I thank you for what you all have done, and I hope that goes out in writing.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. This is out of order. To criticize any council member or any other person in this group is not the purpose of this exercise. And even if I agreed with your feelings, I don't believe you have the right to express those during this hearing.
Okay, so they can take it out of what's been written. I just think any council member who is elected by the town needs to be in any meeting, whether it's you favor it or you don't favor it. You still have an obligation to be in the meeting.
Sir, you did point out one council member by name.
Okay.
And that's not the purpose of this hearing.
Well, I apologize for that. Okay.
Thank you.
I do agree with what everyone else has said. I do think we need to look at a small amount of money being paid for people who do not own property on the water. When you said, Mr. Nern, that I would have free access in and out of the waterway. I do own a boat. It is kept in the marina. I rarely bring it to my house. Right now I don't have a dock, so I couldn't bring it in there anyway. So I do think the council should at least consider a small amount because the whole council or the whole town and county enjoys, having that water. I see many more boats coming into that area versus going out from the people owners who stay there. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Tom Borman, 1515 North Shore Drive.
My name is Tom Borman. My wife and I live at 1515 North Shore Drive. Like Mr. Corbett, I also serve on council, and I just wanted on record here that we moved here 4 years ago, so we're fairly new residents here, but from the day that I moved in here, I started asking questions about how do we get dredging done, because I saw what was happening to the navigational aspects of the waterways. Since I started that 4 years ago, year by year, I see the waterways filling in with sand to the point that they've become unnavigable outside of maybe an hour or two each side of high tide. I think that the dredging project is critical to the survival of Sunset Beach as a waterfront community, and I am very much in favor of the dredging process occurring. I do support the amendment, so I want to see the dredging project go ahead. Thank you.
All right, that's all on the list that had signed in to speak. Our next item on the agenda is to read the comments that were received via email. I'll be reading them. Go ahead and apologize ahead of time if I misread your name. Names are not my best, faces are better. This is from Mr. Anthony and Faith Martin, 1524 North Shore Drive in Sunset Beach. We support the proposed dredging project and understand that we will be assessed since we are direct beneficiaries. The assessment should be a flat rate per lot. Next is Mr. Harry Williamson, 428 Marlin Street, parcel 2560J019. Once again, I'm in favor of the dredging project and accept financial responsibility. One only has to look at the past and present condition of Mad Inlet to see where Tubbs is headed. It is affecting rent and property values. Additionally, as pointed out, stormwater's drain turns into canals white with sand and silt after any rainfall. Reroute these drains to reduce sediment if it is negligible. This, along with community access, affects the whole community. I do not understand why we have to repeat ourselves. Next up is Vicki and Larry Booth, 1703 Canal Drive. Yes, we're in favor of dredging. We agree to be financially responsible for my portion of the dredging costs. We are honored to support dredging to provide water access for all people who enjoy water sports, fishing, boating. The Bay Area is a vital part of Sunset Beach. This keeps vacationers coming back year after year and bringing more with them. The economic growth has allowed people like us to also have small businesses. Next up is Dave and Sue Dora, 410 Sailfish Road. Sue and I would like to state on record that we are in favor of dredging and we understand we have financial responsibility as a property owner of the canal. Next up is Dean Mckinney, 402 Dolphin Street. I am writing with regards to the proposed permits for dredging at Sunset Beach, North Carolina, referred above. I want to express my explicit support for approving this permit, and I understand and accept the financial obligations. I have been an owner of canal fronting property at Sunset Beach since 1971. Over the period of time, we have dredged the canal on 3 occasions in order to maintain minimum depths and provide access to the open waters. I know of no adverse outcome resulting from the maintenance. Next up is Tobias Morgan, 1713 Canal Drive. I am in full support of the dredging project and understand my financial responsibility for this project. Please proceed with approval of the much-needed dredging project. Next up is Mr. Stuart Maurer, 1313 North Shore Drive East. We're all for dredging. We as a family are all for dredging of all the canals and do realize that we will have a financial obligation. Thank you, and can we please get it done? Next up is Hanson Matthews. It's 423 Dolphin Street. Please know that the owners of the property are in favor of the long overdue dredging project for the canals and nearby inlets. We have waited for what seems to be an eternity for this project to finally move forward. We are aware that we will bear financial responsibilities as the dredging occurs. Please do White Beach communities all up and down the East Coast have been doing for years. Dredging canals as they become filled with silt.
I think that should have been what beach communities.
I just read what was on there, sir. All right, next up, Mr. Charles and Christine Osborne, 421 Dolphin Street. We strongly support the dredging project and the associated resolution to be discussed during the November 7th meeting. As canal homeowners, the project is essential to our ability to use the waterways for which we would purchased our home. We support the dredging to the maximum amount so that we do not have to go through this exercise again in the near future. Thank you for consideration. Next up is, there's no address on this. Well, here it is, I'm sorry. Fritz Dove, I'm in favor of dredging and I will assume the financial cost. That is 1711 Canal Drive.
Just make a note that Mr. Dove made a spoken comment here also.
Okay. Next up is Vince Barilla, 1504 Riverside Drive. I am in favor of the dredging project and fully understand that I will have financial responsibility, being one of the impacted owners on the island. I would like to know, if approved, when the project commence and when will the assessment payment be required? Next up is Richard and Peggy Lai, 407 Sailfish Street. We're on the canal that desperately needs dredging and are happy to pay our fair share for the cost associated with this operation. We are certain that you are aware of the financial importance of the dredging means to the home values and rental incomes of the island. We ask that you start the dredging process immediately, as it is long overdue. Thank you for your consideration of these comments. Next up is Brad and Nina Mook, 415 Marlin Street. We're in strong support of all aspects of the proposed dredging. This issue has been going on for many years, and I have personally attended and spoke at a variety of council meetings. In addition, I have forwarded comments to support all the regulatory agencies. Again, here I voice a strong support. These waterways are designed for recreational use, and there is no need for periodic dredging. There are government authorities in place to be certain of all aspects are done within the laws and guidelines, and it is time to trust the process and simply move forward. There are government funds in place supported by assessments to the impact of waterfront owners. This is a safety issue, quality of life, property values, and desirability of the area issue. Let's please move forward, put this behind us, and address the matters in our community. Next up is Tony and Patricia Del Duca. For the record, my wife and I are in favor of the dredging project proposed by the town council. We understand that we will be assessed an amount of money to be determined to subsidize the project. Next up is Tracy Noble, 411 Sailfish. I'm in favor of dredging. I understand that as a waterfront property owner of a finger canal, I will have financial responsibility for the portion of the associated cost. Next up is Tom and Deborah, Lowry, 1516 North Shore Drive East. As a waterfront property owner, we are writing to express our full support for the dredging project as currently submitted. We also recognize that the project carries a financial commitment as our part of property owners. What we are not in support of is continuous delays, rising costs, and potential loss of grant monies caused by the few opposers who are not only spreading false information but also do not have a financial stake in the project. Listen to the ones that do. It is time to move forward with the project, get this very important improvement work completed. Deborah Young, 1309 Canal Drive. I want to go on the record as being in full support of this much-needed project. It is without question necessary in order to keep the canals navigational. This is not just for the water access owners here, but also for the pleasure of our tourists that come to the island because they have these great canals to do all manners of water sports, from boating to fishing, kayaking to swimming, etc. Sunset Beach is a spot of paradise for many. Let's keep it that way. Next up is John Welsher. I have a home at 1307 Canal Drive. I am in full support of the dredging project. I own this home. I do not rent. I understand and accept all financial implications of this project. It is long past due. Thank you. Karen and Chuck Wakeford, 1611 Canal Drive. We are in favor of dredging and understand the financial responsibility. Ed Marthers, 413 18th Street. I want to state unequivocally that I am in favor of dredging, and I fully understand that I have a financial responsibility as my property abuts Bay Area. I respectfully ask the town to approve so we can move on without further delays and a negative impact on our property values. Thank you. Next up is Doreen and David Severs, 405 Sailfish Street. Yes, we're in favor of dredging and understand that we will bear some financial responsibilities for this project as our house is located on the canal. Next up is Lydia LaVale and Alicia Stemper. We are property owners of one of the canals on Sunset Beach. We have written you a few times over the past years with our concerns about delaying of the dredging project and are doing so again. Our dock now sits on muck for several hours each day. This dredging is desperately needed to maintain the integrity of our dock, which was not designed to sit on the muck. Sunset Beach is a special place. We are willing to pay our fair share of the cost of the dredging project if we keep it this way. Next up is our Margaret Peggy Tyson, 1805 Canal Drive. I support the dredging projects. Maintaining our waterways for fishing and boating is crucial in maintaining businesses dependent upon tourism and the enjoyment and values of our homes. Next up, and just a note on this one was longer than the words, so there was some of it that had to be marked out or won't be read. This is from Mark and Elizabeth Musher, 1415 Canal Drive. We're longtime Sunset Beach lovers and part-time residents. Since we were kids in the 80s, we previously owned a house on Cobia, Canal D, and currently live on 1415 Canal Drive on our back bay. During our home ownership on Cobia and Canal Drive, we have seen the navigation and water depth change dramatically. It has been reduced to the point where we were only able to navigate our boat to and from the house for a very short time on each side of the high tide. Please proceed with the dredging project and don't let our home values plummet. Our families will have to enjoy and love all the activities that Sunset Beach offers. Yeah, at the very beginning. Yeah, I did. You didn't hear me? You was chasing that paper? Okay, I did. Yes, sir. Next up is Robert and Leslie Alderson. That is 419 Dolphin Street. We're strongly in favor of the dredging project and willing to pay for the special assessment against our benefited property. This project has been long too far coming as a result of a vocal minority who do not own on the benefited property, and the result has cost us increased costs for those of us who will be paying. You are to be commended for finally acting and rectifying the inaction of the prior officials who failed their responsibility to the people in town. This project will enhance property values and permit owners and guests to actually use the waterways. Next up is Chad and Katie Tracy, 1520 North Shore Drive. We recently purchased property on North Shore on Sunset Beach. We're very happy to be a part of a beautiful community. We have met several of our new neighbors who have been warm and welcoming. We became aware of the public hearing and wanted to let you know that we support the dredging project. We would like to see it happen to improve the quality and safety of boating in our new community. Next up is Barry Wishon and his wife. It's 1511 North Shore Drive. I am in favor of the dredging project and I'm happy to pay my part. A couple of questions. Who will be required to move our docks? Will we be required to move our docks? Can we get the dredging on a schedule so that we do not have to fight to keep the waterways passable? Why are non-canal lot owners who bear no cost allowed to delay the process? Thanks. Next up is Mary Benjamin Hester, James Hamilton Hester, and Lindsay Ann Hester. And the property is at 422 Dolphin Street. We're in favor of the dredging and understand we have a financial responsibility for the project. We cannot attend the hearing, but we are sending this email in support of the dredging. Next up is Dave and Tanya Rucker, 1509 North Shore Drive. We strongly support the Sunset Beach dredging project and understand our financial responsibility as property owners. We also support the placement of compatible soils in the near shore area offshore of Sunset Beach between 3rd and 13th Street. Next up is John Butcher. I do not see an address. I can say strongly enough that how much I support dredging. The gradual fill in our canal bays and the access water is destroying our natural beauty, ecosystem, and economical vitality and future of this area. As an owner of one of the canals, we would shoulder the cost of the benefit for all, and I'm in for it. It's just the right thing to do. I do vote dredge now, please. Jeff and Monica Vogel. When will the residents of Sunset Beach have a final answer, either yes or no? Homeowners, boaters, Sunset Beach lovers, and a community as a whole deserve a definite answer so that we can make plans on how to proceed with our properties, our livelihoods, our investments. This has been a roller coaster of yes, no, more comments, more studies, locations were inadvertently missed, so more paperwork, etc. Next up is Tobias Morgan. I think this one has been copied twice. I have read this one, if I'm not mistaken. Or either that was somebody that maybe spoke. Is that correct? Next up is Chow Glenn, but I think you have spoke to, so it handles this, correct? Excuse me 1 minute, please. All right, next up, and this is another one that exceeded the wording, so they have put in where it needs to be read at. On behalf of Jeff and Barbara Norris, 408 Sailfish Street. On behalf of our family, we're offering the following to be shared during public comments. Our family continues to be in full support of the dredging and proposes offshore placement options of a compatible dredge sand material. We're also expressing continued support for the council as in the approach following precedents in gaining approval from all agencies for maintenance dredging. In addition, we support established precedents over how the cost of burden will be paid for. As waterfront owners, our family has paid its fair share of excess cost of the dredging since 1989. We are fully expect to do so now and in the future. We offer a copy of this to Sunset Beach. Next up is Bruce and Carol Kissel. I would like to express my strong support for the proposed dredging project within Sunset Beach, and I understand benefited property owners will be assessed the remaining costs after grants. I have one question. Can some of the dredging be used to replenish the dunes that have been affected by the hurricanes in early August? Next is Patrick and Kathy Alderson, 421 Sailfish Street. We would like to make the comment that we are in favor of dredging. It is long overdue. We also recognize that we will incur some financial obligations to this project. Next up is Robbie and Tracy Noble, 411 Sailfish Street. We fully support the proposed dredging project in Sunset Beach, Jinx Creek, and other areas to be designated, the planned distribution of the sand, and understand the financial commitments of the property owners. Thank you for an environmentally responsible homeowner who has enjoyed 25 years on the waterway and hope for many more. Next up is Andrea and Joe DeFranco. As affected property owners, we would like to express our full support for the dredging project and understand we will be required to pay our fair share toward the cost of the project. We would kindly ask the council consider allowing affected property owners several years to pay for this so that the cost will be spread out over a period of time. We also support a dredging maintenance fund to be established for future costs. Next up is Richard Jones and his wife Mindy at 404 Marlin Street. We support the proposed dredging project and understand that we have financial responsibility to share in the cost. Next up is John Gorney and his wife Nancy at 1526 North Shore Drive. We're absolutely in favor of the dredging and recognize that we have financial responsibilities for the project. We have the following questions. When will we know how much will be charged for this project? When do you expect the dredging to begin in South Jinx Creek? And what is required to be done in terms of our floating docks in preparation for the dredging? Next up is Anthony Corvino, 1216 Riverside Drive. I, like so many of my fellow neighbors, am in favor of looking to the completion of the proposed dredging project of Jinx Creeks and all the surrounding areas. Being one of the affected homeowners, I would appreciate cost certainty concerning assessments to myself and my fellow neighbors. I understand that a grant has been obtained for a good majority of the cost, but I also am very well aware of possible overruns of the cost, which should not be passed on to the affected residents. Also, 8% is absolutely ridiculous for a balanced payments. Next up is Tony Retzel, at 416 18th Street. We're in favor of the dredging project and understand we have financial responsibility. Having navigable waterways was our primary decision to purchase in this specific property. We also recognize the value of the dredging project for the entire community. Next up is Margaret Hubbard and Robert Hubbard, and their address is 1509 Canal Drive. The dredging is essential, especially in Jinx Creek. As a waterfront owner, I am well aware I will be assessed for the badly needed repair of our waterways to restore our boating safety. Next up is Kelly and Lee Harris, 1809 Canal Drive. We favor the dredging project as proposed, including the near shore placement of spoils. We understand we have a financial responsibility as waterfront homeowners. We sincerely hope that the much-needed project is allowed to proceed without further delays, as the costs will continue to rise the longer it is delayed. Next up is Robert and Jeanette Bugg, 429 6th Street. My email is to simply say please to approve the dredging of Sunset Beach. I am absolutely baffled that there is any controversy. I own a house at 429 6th Street with a dock in the mud on Canal A. I have lost rentals. I can't keep my boat in the water. It is dangerous for tenants. My property is losing value. The town is losing revenues. Help. Please approve the dredging. Next up is Tom and Freda Harrington at 417 Sailfish Street. Please be advised that we support the dredging project for Sunset Beach. Further, we understand that we will have a financial responsibility for this project. Next up is Ray and Martha Peck, 1311 Canal Drive. We will be unable to attend the public hearing scheduled for Saturday, but we wish to voice our strong and unqualified support for the dredging project within Sunset Beach. We believe that Sunset Beach waterways are a public amenity since they are not used only by adjacent property owners such as us, but also as other Sunset Beach residents, local non-residents, and vacationers. These waterways should therefore be improved and maintained so they may be assessed and enjoyed by all. The dredging project will greatly enhance our waterways and is urgently needed. Next up is Cindy and Steve Borders, 419 5th Street. We oppose the dredge, but if it ultimately moves forward, we support the resolution. Next up is Jim and Mary Beth Yeager, 104 Hickory Street. 4 questions, I'm sorry. Why did you not ask the people being assessed for dredging whether they want it? Why did assessments significantly increase from original estimates of around $5,000? Is the town one of the 377 entities being assessed for the dredging? You own property on Mary's Creek, and townspeople, vacationers, and fishing boats from all over will use the creek. 4, if our bulkhead, riprap, or dock collapses or are damaged because of the dredging, who will pay for the repairs? This is from John and Joan Del Gorno. Please don't even consider assessing non-dockable property for dredging. It would be completely unfair. I own a home on 5th Street for the last 20 years. I consider the town administration to be thoughtful and reasonable for all this time. I trust I can continue to do so once you deal with this situation. Next is Jim Good. I do not see it just says Sandpiper, no physical address. I have yet to see how dredging will affect the bulk of Sunset Beach property owner. It seems that the expense should be shouldered by all and benefiting a small amount of property owners and possibly politicians. Next up is Joe and Angela Kachuba. Also, non-waterfront property owners should not bear the cost of the dredging project. Also, if the town is paying for any part of the dredging, which we believe has already happened, then the town should add public docks to all waterfront locations, e.g. in the end of Cobia Street says the end of Cobia Street may not have parking, but a public dock should be placed there for fishing and launching kayaks. know why these staple. Next up is Donald and Christy Martin, 434 Cobia Street, 3 concerns. The overflow of rainwater from Canal Drive into the canals, it only takes a few big raindrops to destroy what the dredging will do. We're at the end of the canal, and the last time the canals were dredged, they only dredged a few feet wide to the end. Did not come close to our dock. Boats were sitting on the floor of the canal after they were dredged. I'm assuming the dredging this time will be much wider and much deeper. Why should only the property owners of the canals have to foot the bill? Why should we pay for sidewalks when we don't even use them? Ronald and Lorene Hoke, 421 Marlin Street. The key to the assessment is benefited property. Everyone in Sunset Beach will benefit from the dredging due to the increased revenues from sales, accommodations, and property tax. The town mentions economical impacts in the August 2020 project narrative prepared for the U.S. Army Corps. The only fair way for excess costs is by land value. Option 4. All property owners within the town limits should pay a percentage based on each land without improvements. If any council member would like to talk, just give me a call. Next up is Jeff Glass, 432 Cobia Street. As a homeowner on one of the properties of the canal, I'm in favor of the project that takes into consideration the responsible needs of the environment and does not, while being and does so being fiscally conservative, not the current overreaching project being proposed. As for the assessment resolution, by dividing the cost of the project equally between the homeowners and waterfront properties, you are disproportionately penalizing the majority of us with the smaller lots. In most cases, the cost far outweighs the benefits and could force some of us to sell our homes. I respectfully request you reconsider the proposed assessment structure and propose a much more equitable solution. Next up is Joel Fickling, 1501 East Main Street. We support the dredging of the canal behind Sunset Beach. Please relay this message to council. Next up is Neil Harm. There's no address on this because I actually do not live here. It says, my family has been looking to buy at Sunset Beach. We have hesitated over the years as we have watched this project progress. I have kayaked the area around the canals of Jinks Creek into the feeder canals and the bay. There is less than 12 inches of clearance in Jinks Creek at low tide. It is dangerous to boat in this area except at the highest tides. Kathy and Stuart Jones, 1410 Canal Drive. We are writing to support the dredging project. While we are not on the canal, we are impacted because we do enjoy kayaking in the marsh, but must be careful to take our trips. The timing of our trips close to high tide to avoid being stranded and unable to get back to our neighbor's dock that we have permission to use. The access to water is what makes Sunset Beach so attractive to so many who are already living here as well as renters. Melissa Warren, William and Melissa Warren, 709 Waterway Drive. My husband and I are in favor of dredging Sunset Beach and support the resolution. We do not live on the island, and our property is not directly impacted by the dredging, but we do own a small boat that we can only navigate at extremely high tides. Charles and Annette Smith, 502 East Main Street, just says that we are in favor of dredging. Jay Klumpmaker is 1410 East Main Street. We fully support without qualifications all the proposed dredging. Next up is Dave Eastburn.
Excuse me, may I just make one comment?
Go ahead, sir.
The next batch belong to people that do not live on the waterways. They're not affected by this resolution. Thank you.
Dave Eastburn, 424 32nd Street. Under law, legal language canons direct the word or a phrase is presumed to bear the same meaning throughout a text. A material variation in terms suggests a variation in its meanings. 160A-238, Section 3, the area of land benefited by the project at an equal rate per unit of area. 160A-218, notation 4, the number of lots served or subject to being served at an equal rate per lot. Thus, area of land benefited and number of lots served cannot have the same meaning. Further, only 238 applies to the dredging, but are not based on number of lots served. Next up is Edwin W. James, 403 37th Street. I am against proposed assessment as it is illegal. Statutes 160A-238-3, the area of land benefited by the project at an equal rate per unit of area. 160A-218-4, the number of lots served or subject to being served at an equal rate per lot. Wording, area of land benefit and number of lots served cannot have the same meaning. Further, only 238 applies to dredging but are not based on number of lots served. Using 238 requires assessment by area, not by plat or lot number. Next up is Lee Bettis at 1106 East Main Street. I am writing to express opposition to the proposed dredging project. My understanding is that the sand from the dredged canals of the same quality that is found on the beach would be the only item that would be deposited on the ocean just offshore from our beach. I would like to receive assurance that a system of monitoring the quality of sand that is moved to the ocean be implemented. Furthermore, if the quality of the sand is less than what is already on the beach, then I respectfully request a program to redistribute to the beachfront property owners and compensate for decline in property values resulting from this project. Lynn Neesmith, 210 Shoreline Drive East. Assessment decisions should wait until the dredging is approved by U.S. Army Corps and dredging spoil placement is resolved by CAMA. Only then can Sunset Beach determine the overall budget and assessment to the affected owners. The legality of this special tax district seems questionable. It's foolhardy to move forward without considering legal liabilities to taxpayers. 168-238 provides authority to make assessments for beach erosion control and flood and hurricane protection works. The town must show how the dredging project will control erosion and offer hurricane protection. There doesn't seem to be any kind of documentation. Next up is Tony Del Luca, 508 Shoreline Drive East. I do not believe the proposed dredging will benefit all the residents of Sunset Beach. Mother Nature will fill the affected area again and it will cost more monies to maintain. I also do not believe that all residents should be responsible for the cost of this project. This is something that is occurring naturally in the environment. We should leave Mother Nature alone. We do not know what other outcomes will be caused from the dredging. Hence, I am against the project. Next up is Ray Raymer, 421 5th Street. To be short, this is a never-ending project, costly and beneficial to so few. Mother Nature always wins, and there will be no difference. There are plenty of places to put boats in. Next up is, I don't see an address, Jennifer Mueller. Good evening. Please explain the lack of transparency and deceptive applications in the dredging nightmare. Every taxpayer in Sunset Beach will be forced to pay for the dredging, which will only benefit a few, including councilmen. The beach will forever damaged by the careless dumping of spoils into our ocean, which will end up on our pristine beach. The shady politics being played out by the council is despicable, and unsuspecting property owners are being duped. No effort is being made to educate the taxpayers with the cost and truth of the navigational dredging. Why were the permits changed? Next up is Joe Grostowski, and I'm sure I pronounced that wrong, but I apologize. I fail to see the benefit of the majority of citizens to Sunset Beach of dredging. I reside on the fairway of a golf course locally. Don't think dredging, it would be very practical endeavor. Don't think dredging, it will be a practical endeavor. That's the way it's wrote. Let's see. Captain Brad Ingram, as a 30-plus year resident of Sunset Beach and a U.S. Coast Guard licensed master captain, I am opposed to the dredging project. I feel it may be very detrimental to the ecological balance of the ecosystem and the fishing estuary that the marsh area provides. I also enjoy the scenic view that the marsh area. Excuse me just one second, let that go out. Thank you, Chief. I'm going to start this one again in all respect to the man that took the time to write this in. Captain Brad Ingram, as a 30-plus year resident of Sunset Beach and a U.S. Coast Guard licensed master captain, I am opposed to the dredging project. I feel it may be very detrimental to the ecological balance of the ecosystem and the fishing estuary that the marsh area provides. I also enjoy the scenic value of the marsh area and creeks provided without excess use by additional recreational power boating activity. The ICW and current canals access points are enough. And last, and this is another one that is over the 100 words, so they have sectioned it off. This is from Rich Serrato. There is no address. But having a public hearing when the council is not required to answer questions restricts comments to 100 words, and speaking no more than 90 seconds. Doesn't know if the permit will be approved, doesn't know the project cost, and having a meeting that will place our staff and residents at the risk during a time when the pandemic is resurging, only continuing to prove the appearance of and the potential of conflict of interest concerns that are now being driven by two council members that will directly, financially, and navigationally benefit, that will only impact 68 other residents, may need to be legally challenged. That concludes all the emails that were sent in. Any of the council would like to say anything, have any questions, any comments at this time?
Yeah, I'd like to say something.
One second.
Just as a point of clarification.
If you will, Tom, slide your mask down, please, so they can hear you.
Just a point of clarification that came up more than once about the necessity to move floating docks. If I'm not mistaken, that will not be required, that the floating docks will not have to be moved at all to complete the dredging. Is that correct, Robert?
That is, excuse me, that is correct. We will not be dredging close to docks.
Thank you. That's all I have.
That's all you have?
That's all I have. Yeah.
Councilman Phillips, do you have anything?
Yes, sir.
Councilman Nern, you have anything? No. Go ahead, Councilman Corbett.
What I have done in working up to this meeting as well as during this meeting is I've compiled a list of questions that people have asked about the dredging project that we have not yet completely or fully answered, that need to be answered. Some of them we can answer, some of them we can't answer yet. But what will happen, we will take these questions back and at the next council meeting, make an attempt to address and provide the answers or the status. They are, when will property owners know the cost that they will be responsible for? Again, this is going to be down the road in the future. Is there a cap on the cost to the property owner? Nothing's been set yet, but we'll research this. Does the property owners have the opportunity to say yes or no to dredging based on the cost? I think we still need to discuss that too in the future. What is the process for property owners approving the cost? Over what period of time will the property owners have to pay the assessments? In the resolution it pointed out 3 years. Will there be a town-wide tax for dredging that non-impacted property owners will be required to pay? We will be discussing this, but at this time there's no intention to do that. Suggesting to change the 8% interest rate to 3%, that needs to be discussed. I think Councilman Borman answered this. Will waterfront property owners be responsible for moving floating docks? And the answer was no. Is there an established plan for maintenance dredging in the future? If not, how will a plan be developed? Legislation was passed several years ago that enables us to set up a tax dredging district. We have not worked out the details on doing that, but the idea, the concept of the legislation is to be able to put money away each year so that when we do need to dredge, it's there to fund. And when will the dredging begin? We need to get the permits, and then we need to put out contracts, and we have to do it in the dredging seasons, which is one in the spring and one in the fall. And again, we'll provide more detailed answers at the next council meeting.
All, sir.
That's all.
Anyone else? Nope. And headed to the end of this meeting, I just want to thank all the citizens that took the time to come out, the ones that have watched it. That is your right. I hate we don't have more people here. I hate that there wasn't more here to express their comments, but just want to thank you all for coming out, and I hope you all continue to stay safe. And hopefully we can move forward in Sunset Beach for what's best for everyone. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Coming out.